covering like the Afghan loom. Any questions that you guys might have pertaining to the Afghan loom? I promise not to do my best not to make a whole bunch of racket now. So you guys let me know whatever questions you may have. I'm going to cover all the looms that I have, which I have sitting on the table with me. I'm trying to make sure I can see on my other camera. I had to pull off my, let me see, maybe I need to bring this over a little bit. Okay, so if you guys have no questions, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with what I may think that you want to know, since nobody is chiming in. I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. What I'm using today is 3-way yarn. This is not what I normally use on this loom, but I felt it was like a good color to show what I'm doing on here. So that was the choice that was the reason for the choice of this yarn. I've also been playing around with it, so it's good for the working. I'm going to grab one of my looming pins. So if you are a beginner loomer, this is very important. These pins are very important to help with tension. So you can use like an office pin or a straw or the actual looming pin, which I have that on another Afghan loom. So you have those options to use. I'm trying to get out my tapestry needle, and I want the smallest one so I can be able to thread it through the end of the opening of my pen. And I'm gonna do my best to make sure everything goes onto the camera so that you guys can see it as clearly as possible. I'm gonna put the rest of these back up. Sometimes it's hard to find like the smaller ones. Okay, so I'm gonna thread my tapestry needle. These are awesome for threading your pen with because they add a little weight to it. So I can just hang that down, drop my thing through it, and it dropped right through. And then I can also feed it through this end. I normally have to use a lighter to feed it through this end, but this can go through the pen as well because it's a thinner tapestry needle. So I don't have to use my lighters anymore. I can just thread that through there. It works very well through the end of the pen. Okay, if you're not used to slip knotting, my old method is to basically take it on to the peg and just tie it on here like if I were tying a shoe. So I used to do it like that. If you're not used to slip knots, like as if you were starting a shoe, and then I just do it like that. That's how I used to do it. But as a reminder, if you're gonna do that, you would have to you would I would say don't loom on that particular peg if you use that method. But on your loom, you will find this triangle, which you can start anywhere you would like on this loom, but you will find a triangle that helps you a lot on figuring out where to cast it. If you don't if you have trouble seeing this triangle, you can also go through and take your a stitch marker and put it in that area as well. So stitch marker will give you a more visible way to do it. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is do my slip knot. And put it onto here. Gonna put our slip knot on there. And just gonna tug each end. I like to leave enough yarn so that when I go back to thread my loom, that I'll have enough to thread it back in and just cut it loose. So that's about maybe 4 or 5 inches, maybe 5, 6 inches. It's pretty long enough for me to thread it back into the loom. Okay, so if you are new to this, I need some more stitch markers. If you are wanting to make a border, I don't want to use that one. I'm using that one. If you want to make a border, you need stitch markers to section off where you want to have your loom at. I mean, where you want to have your border at. So I usually do 7, and that's because I don't do a. I'm trying to think of the I don't know why I'm drawing the blank. Oh, okay. I don't do a purl stitch on the first or last peg. So I'm going to count over 7. I'm going to count over to 7. 1, 2. No, I'm going to count over to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because I normally do 6 garter stitches, because the magic number, the lowest number of garter stitches you can do is 5. So when I'm doing a border, I do 6, and if I don't purl stitch on the first or the last, technically if you're doing like the whole loom, this would be like your last peg up in this area. So if I don't purl stitch or purl stitch on the first or last peg, that's going to leave me with technically 6 garter stitches going along here. Hey, I got these from online. I forgot where I got them from. They came in this kit thing. I'll try and go online and find them, and then I'll send a link to you. But yeah, they help out a lot. Like I don't have to melt anything anymore or anything because they work really good through there. So I counted 7 on here so that way I can go through and I mean when I go through my thing I'll have 7. If you are doing a full blanket, which I'm gonna grab some more uh, stitches here. I'll grab them off of this loom because I don't really use this loom as much. No problem. If you are doing the full loom, this is where you would want to put your other stitch marker at. So I'm going to put blue right here. I'm going to count 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And put my other stitch marker there. Because that marks off the border for if I'm doing the blanket borders. So the reason why I did 2 different colors is because normally when I do a cast on, when I make it back to this area after I've done my cast on, I do a right, may need more than 6. I'm just doing like this one for like for demonstration, but I'm thinking about using this yarn on this loom, so that is a good idea. But yeah, so when I do my cast on stitches, I go around like the whole loom with each stitch. So I'll start right here because this is my starter peg. I go all the way around and do each stitch. And then I go back. I stop right here because this is where I leave my pegs open in here because I don't want to accidentally loom on there. Yes, I'm gonna try and attempt the 3-way on here, and because I have plenty of this purple and I have some yellow, so I was thinking maybe yellow and purple alternate. But I chose this 3-way because I felt like it was like a good color to see on live and demonstrate with. And then so I stopped right here with my E-wrap cast on. So when I go this way, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on here. When I go this way, I'm wrapping counterclockwise. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on there so that way. Yes, I hope so. I hope I can do it in a pretty way. So I'm gonna go ahead and E-wrap cast on. We're doing an E-wrap cast on. So we're going around the whole loom counterclockwise. And we're going to make an open blanket, which is also called working in the flat. So you'll be working in the flat. If I were working in the round, when I was working on this blanket, I'm going to show you with a round loom. If I was working on the round, because this is basically what this loom is. If I were working in the round, I would basically continue going around the loom. But since I am doing a flat work, I'll be doing this and then going back the other direction. So that's called flat panel working. So that's the way we'll be working this loom, and you'll be able to see that. I use that so I can quickly show you because there's so many pegs on here that it's going to take me a while to go around it and just to say that I'm going back the other direction. I haven't knitted like a whole, went around the whole loom in a minute. And I'm only doing like the initial demonstration on here because I'm just trying to make sure you guys grasp it on what you'll be actually working on. But basically what I'm doing on here, I can do on a smaller loom, on a smaller scale. So maybe it'll be more clear on a smaller one. But I'm going to show this one first. I need to lay that down. And to keep my yarn from popping off, I try to hold that pin there, because the yarn typically pops off on this loom very easily. So just make sure your yarn that is at the end of your pin is very close to the pin opening so that it doesn't pop out so easily. I'm trying to make sure it's coming through the skin easily. That's another thing I get a lot of questions about, is the tension. As long as you are not using the pin solely to pull from your skin, you shouldn't have any issues with tension. So now I'm going to go ahead and push all of this down. You have yet to use all of it? I've only used all of mine. Let me see. Let me make sure. I have used all of it twice, but the second time I did all of it twice was just that taller blanket, so I didn't make it that long. I made the taller blanket about 3 feet, but really like that one time I made that bigger blanket. That was really the only time I legitimately actually used like the whole loom. I might leave this on here depending on how I feel. I don't know. But then I'm thinking about more so this needs to be a baby blanket, so I probably won't leave this on here. This color fits for baby blankets. So knowing me, I will go back and take this off. I will frog it and make it into a baby blanket. It's taking me a little minute to get these down. Trying to do it very carefully. Okay, we're almost done. Okay, so when you go back, we are going back to the beginning because this will be flat panel. So when I go back, I need to hold this up to the camera. I do not stitch on the first peg when I go back. So this is when you skip the first peg on the way back, it is called a slip stitch. So instead of going to the first peg, I'm going to go to the next one. And you don't have to be concerned about not having knitted off on this part, because when you come back around, you will take care of this peg. Which I'm thinking I probably should now, because if I purl stitch, I'm going to have to miss this peg. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that peg. So instead of doing what I thought I was going to do, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it anyway. So I went on ahead and worked that peg because I'm getting ready to come back around and do purl stitch. And so I'm trying to make sure that that peg is taken care of on my way back. So I'm still wrapping counterclockwise around the whole loom. Try to hold it down a little bit more so my hand won't be all the way in the screen. And this is basically how you E-stitch. I need some more yarn. That's why I'm pausing right now. And then I need to make sure that it is. I'm gonna lay it down because I think that was basically the gist, because I'm going around the whole loom the same way. And my bad, I am not going counterclockwise. I'm going clockwise at this time. So you'll find that when you're working in the flat, you end up going one direction counterclockwise, and when you go the other direction, you'll find that you're going clockwise. It doesn't change the stitch of your pattern, so you'll be fine. Even if you decide to do your whole project a different way, you'll be fine. It'll still end up being an E-stitch, just as long as your stitch is turned towards this way on the outside of each peg, because when you knit off, it's going to fall into the middle part of your loom. That's what I want to do. I want to do the next blanket figure 8 stitch. Well, I want to do a figure 8 stitch. I have yet to do a figure 8 stitch blanket. I wanted to do it with 4-way, but I don't think that's going to happen. I want to be hopeful, but I don't think that's going to happen. And y'all, I can't play any music. I would love to play music, but I can't play any music on YouTube because YouTube is very strict about copyright issues. So you can't in order for me to do like replay without a whole bunch of editing, and I have to not play music. Okay, let me hold it up to the camera to make sure you guys saw what I just did. I'm gonna take it back out, push that back down. I want to sing a song, but I don't want to do that either. Thanks, friend. Okay, so if y'all see that, I skipped this peg on purpose. So there's no loop on this peg. There's loops on this peg, and there's loops on this one. I like to leave a peg open because I move so quickly at times that I end up stitching over. So if I have them too close together, I get the rolling. So I always leave a peg open. And so when I get to this end, I'm going to knit off on this end. This is called knitting off. And that's basically you pulling the bottom loop over the top. And that holds in your stitch right there so that nothing pops off. hold it right there. So at this point, this is your cast on. So this is what your cast on should be looking like. And so now I'm going to, I like to start from the end where I ended it. I like to start from this area and go around and start knitting off everything. Sorry if this pen is in the way. So I'm gonna hold this up here. And just in case you guys missed it, this is a stitch marker that lets me know when I'm going this direction around the loom. When I'm going this direction around the loom, I'm supposed to be E-stitching. And this one is orange. So when I come back this direction, I know to purl stitch all the other pegs going that direction. And the combination of the E-stitch and the purl stitch is your garter stitch. So typically, rule of thumb is to garter stitch 5. It's to garter stitch 5 rows, which would be a combination of E-stitch, purl stitch for one row. So you would garter stitch 5 rows to keep the blanket from curling. But for me, to be on the safe side, I usually do 6. But when I am doing like a whole border around the whole blanket, I do 7, because on the ends right here is 7. And so typically what I've learned is that you do not purl stitch. When you're in your purl stitch row, you don't purl stitch on the first or last peg. So since this is basically taken out, I only have 6 pegs left to purl stitch on. So that's the reason why I do 7 instead of 6 on the outside. But that's your choice, because if you do 6, you may end up like with 5 garter stitches, full garter stitches on this side. But that's my logic behind when I go to have like my border on the end. But I'm just gonna go around. This is knitting off, and I'm in the wrong area. That's not gonna hurt anything. I'm gonna go around and knit off all the pegs. It is just a tad bit loose. But for right now, the stitch markers aren't my concern. It's just the first and the last stitch marker that's my concern. I think that's a tree frog making that noise. So if you guys have the gist of basically knitting off, I'm going to sit down and run through these knit off real quick. Because that's basically all you're doing is taking the bottom loop and pulling it to the center of your loom. This is the center of your loom. So I'm going to sit down and go ahead and knit all that off. I work quicker when I do it this way. So if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. That's what we're here for today. I don't know why my bottom loop is so much looser than the top today. But I am working with 3-way yarn for the first time. It was not my intention to like actually work with 3-way, but it was the color that I felt I can do, that you guys can see it on the camera. Okay, not a lot of people work their looms the way I do as well. They usually have their stitches facing them, but I like to just feel like I'm just flicking it very fast. So that's the reason why I hold mine this way. You can pretty much hold it in any way that you feel is more comfortable for you to work fast. You don't necessarily have to hold it the way I'm holding it. Because, like, even right now, I'm holding it like this because that's much easier for me when I am working in certain areas. But most people leave theirs laying down on the table. That's also the reason for my lazy Susan here, because this is a lazy Susan. And when I'm doing the purl stitch, it'll be more useful then. The other thing, the pen is not very useful when it comes to the purl stitch. So, because you'll be mainly or mostly doing that one with your hands. But it does work a lot of wonders when it comes to the E-stitch. So in essence, if you're doing like the initial border stitch, however many stitches you may do, you're gonna be technically like if you do like 5 garter stitch, in technicality, you should have did like 10 stitches all together for your border. And if I were doing like 6 all together, I should at least have 12 stitches on the peg. Before I begin the body part of my blanket. Sometimes you gotta watch the stitches because mine are not going all the way up, and that's because it's loose at the bottom. And I don't need to do like the last 2 pegs because I accidentally did one when I wasn't supposed to. And I needed this one off to hold the yarn on. Okay, so you will not, this next row is our purl stitch row. So you will not you will not push your pegs down. The only time you will push your pegs down is when you do your E-stitch. So I'm gonna try and hold this up again. Okay, so in order to do your purl stitch, I'm trying to make sure it's on the, do it as easy as I can on here. Okay, so if you are doing your purl stitch, it's basically your yarn is going to go across the bottom of your stitches, of your E-stitches. I will not purl stitch on this, and so technically this will be your slip knot stitch. It's basically you're skipping your first peg when you do a slip knot. No, I'm sorry. Um, Let me make sure I'm saying the right thing. Let me get my little book out. I think I'm meaning to say your slip stitch. I don't know why I keep calling it slip knot. Yeah, it's called your slip stitch. So, sorry about that. We're gonna go across here. We're gonna take our looming hook and we're gonna go down. I can hold it up a little bit closer. I'm gonna move this down some. I'll pull it this way, so that way it'll be easily more seen. Okay, so we're gonna take our looming hook, go down into our peg or stitch, and we want to grab our yarn and pull it through. I'm holding on to the yarn, so that's why I didn't pull it through as much as it should have. So we're going to pull that through. We're going to take the stitch off. So you want to remove the stitch off the peg, and you're going to replace it with the loop that you just made. Put that down there. And then you want to take your working yarn and tug on it just slightly, not too tight, so that you're basically securing in your purl stitch. So if you just did that, you just did your purl stitch. So I'm going to go down again. I'll show this on camera multiple times. Pull it up. Lift up your stitch off the loom, off the peg. Replace it with the purl stitch that you just made or the loop. Put that down and tug at it slightly. Gonna do that again. Go down your stitch. Press down on your working yarn, slide it up through your stitch, pull it up, lift it off of the loom, and replace it with your new purl stitch, and tug at it slightly to secure it onto your peg. I'm gonna go again. Go down, push, down, pick it up, remove it off the loom, replace it, and tug. I noticed that one of my stitches didn't go over, when I was knitting off. So no harm done. Just put it back over or go ahead and knit it off. Okay, going down in there again, pull it up, take the stitch off and replace it. I'm gonna bring that over so it'll be laying down when I go. Okay, I'm just gonna move just a tad bit faster. And then I'm gonna lay it down on the table. And here in just a minute. Just in case you guys don't, if you need me to hold it back up to the camera again, just let me know. If not, I'm just gonna go ahead and try and work it around the loom as quickly as I can. So this is where, like I was saying, like the Lazy Susan comes in hand. I'm gonna try and move through this as quick as I can. This whole row needs to be purl stitch. So if you have like a notebook and paper beside you, it would help out a lot if you have that beside you. Because when you finish your purl row, you can go ahead and say, you know, that's your first garter stitch. Whenever you finish your purl row, that's when you count it as a stitch. Grabbing some more yarn. And then what I'm gonna do after I show you guys what you do next on here, I'm just gonna go switch over to a smaller loom so that it'll be a quicker demonstration. Especially if I don't know how far you guys are, because some of you guys may already know how to do purl stitch, and so that way I can avoid having you have to sit through me purl stitching and e-stitching this loom for a very long time. For me, starting, I think it may have took me maybe 30 to 40 minutes to purl stitch a whole loom. I think now it takes me about 20 minutes. So it's okay if it takes you longer to do it. That's kind of what happens when you start, but the more you get used to it, you'll speed up. My first time purl stitching, I also I accidentally missed a lot of pegs too. So I had to continually go back and fix pegs that I had missed. And when I say I was missing pegs, I was missing pegs about every time that I started purl stitching. I missed at least one peg. I don't understand how I kept doing that, but and maybe it was the stress of the moment. So if you are in the middle of purl stitching, take your time. There's no rush over here. Because if you guys are, if it's taking you a little longer, I have other things to talk about on here. So while you're spending time purl stitching, I'll talk about all the looms that I have, and I'll tell you other uses for this Afghan loom, because it can be used for a lot of different things other than just blankets. I've used it for, I've done a hat on one of these, just one other thing, but it can be whatever you can pretty much do on your round looms and long looms, you can do on here. I'm still trying to iron out how to do pillows. I think I have an idea though. I think if I U-stitch everything, because the U-stitch is tighter. So if I feel like if I U-stitch the pillow, it'll give it less flex, so I can stuff the pillow more properly. Gonna get a little water because it is a little warm out here in my shed. I do have like my ceiling fan and everything going. I want to make sure that I stay hydrated. It almost feels like working outside. This got a little black yarn or a dark purple yarn mixed in with this yarn. This would be like a very thin baby blanket, which is probably good for right now anyway, since it's getting hotter outside. I'm trying not to hum music. I really like listening to music. I'm trying not to. I hadn't done this much workout on this loom in a minute. Sorry if that was too loud. I'm so glad to be back on the outside. But if you have your attention too tight, that's where all the issues come in with your like wrist and fingers and things like that. So it's just very extra important to kind of manage your tension as best as you can. If you guys need to see the purl stitch again, please don't hesitate to ask. These 3 hours are dedicated to y'all, so whatever you need me like to show you is what I'll do. If not, I'll just continue on with some things that I have laid out to show you guys. Hey, hey Sandra, how you doing? By the way, I forgot to tell you, I finally learned, if you're still there, I know you might not be in here very long, I finally learned how to mattress stitch over the week. Um, so you make a shirt? You make shirts too? I don't think we had talked about that. But I won't hold you up. I know you're working. And I can totally understand that. Right, me too. I think it's so neat too. Ooh, I'm nearing the end. I always get excited when I see that the other color stitch marker. It gives me hope and it helps me speed up just a little bit. I'm like, I'm almost there. Let's run the race. Woman of many talents, Sandra. That stitch didn't go over. When I reach towards the end, I will stand up and show you guys that I am not purling on the last peg, and I'll show you how I wrapped the last time. Once you finish doing your purl stitch, you can push everything down after that. I'm trying not to hum anything. I keep humming, getting ready to hum a song, and I'm trying not to hum anything. The music in me runs deep. This is such a pretty purple. Okay, I'm getting ready to bring it up to the camera. This, let's see what purple this, it is lavender. This lavender is so pretty. It really does look like lavender. Okay, so I am on my last peg that I need to purl. I want to bring this yarn around here so that it is laying across the bottom. So we are going to purl this one. I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't go under the working yarn. Okay. So we are going to purl this one. This is the next one before the last one. Take it off like we were doing earlier. Replace it and tug. Okay. So now we can go around the whole loom. It should be much easier. When you purl stitch, the purl stitch pretty much slides up and down the loom very easily. So it's not going to take me that long to push it back down. You always want to have your stitch on the bottom when you do your E-stitch. I like to leave it on the top when I do my purl stitch because it reminds me what I'm doing if the stitch is at the top, and it makes it easier to purl stitches if you leave all your stitches up anyway. Okay, so I'm going to take my pen. I'm going to lay this loom down real quick. I want my pen to be close. And I'm going to show you guys how to bring in that loop from the last peg. And it's basically like figure 8 stitching it. So my stitches, my pen is back here. And we're going to take it and go around the front. Go around the front of this peg. Take it to the back of the next peg, which is already going to the back. And then we're going to wrap it clockwise. And then we're just going to continue wrapping it clockwise. Now I'm going to lay it back down because we're just wrapping it clockwise like we did earlier. So I'm just laying the loom back down and continuing to clockwise wrap it on the way back around. Let me sit back down. Okay, I'm gonna knit off like I did earlier to hold in this yarn. Then I'm gonna go ahead and start on this end. Okay, if you guys have no more questions, I'm gonna pull. I'll go over these looms real quick. Because you're basically doing the same thing. I'm starting like the second garter stitch right now. And you'll basically be doing like a repetitive thing with your blanket. So once you get to like the part where you need the border all the way around, just let me know. If not, I'll be doing it anyway on the blanket that I have already on the loom. I try to be careful on the way back because, you know, I was saying earlier that the purl stitch slides very easily on the peg. So whenever I'm moving the stitch up, the next one slides up. Okay, so if you guys have no more questions when it comes to the edge border, I am going to move on, but I will show you an example of what it should look like when you are done. So here's another blanket that many of you have seen on live and that you already know about. So your blanket, your edge of your garter stitch on the edge should look something like this. This is E-stitch right here. But your garter should look like this, so that keeps it from curling in. See how mine is flat, so it's not curling in. So if you do your garter stitches, this is 7 rows collectively of the garter stitch. So this is my my E-stitch and purl stitch right here. This is my second E-stitch and purl stitch. This is my third E-stitch and purl stitch, and so on. So that makes 1 stitch, garter stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that makes your garter stitch. Thank you. I am. It is growing on me. At first I was gonna frog it, but it's really growing on me. I was gonna frog it because I didn't know like how I was feeling about it up in this area, but the more I continue, I was like, okay, I can live with that. So that's how your garter stitch should look like when you finish. I think I'm gonna put this one back on there eventually after I do a little demonstration real quick. I need to find the hat. The little hat that I made on that loom that I never closed up because I'm gonna frog it too. Just hanging on to some extra yarn. So this is an example basically because I did this one on this loom. This is an example. I was still learning the mattress stitch, so this is done incorrectly. So I'm gonna frog the whole thing, go back and redo it on the round loom. So that was me trying to close off on it. I flat panel stitched this on this loom. So this loom I was able to create this hat on this loom. So that's why I say a lot of the stuff that you can do on a round loom, you can do on this loom. It's gonna take a little bit more of work. So, because I flat panel stitched this, I took yarn and gathered the top to close it up, and then I closed it up right here so that it would form a hat. So it can be done on here. Scarves can be done on here. If I'm not mistaken, socks can too, but I'm not quite sure how I would get a sock done on here. So socks, hats, scarves, probably gloves, and all those things can be done on here because essentially this is just like a really, really long loom. It's basically one of these shaped into an S. So this is like my longest loom. And that's basically this loom shaped into an S. So whatever you can do on a long or round loom, and because it continuously right here, if I would have knitted all the way on this peg right here, if I would have did that closed in, this would have been, this could be a round loom in itself. So you can create a tube project with this loom. So if you decided not to have like a flat panel project, you can do a round, which is here, on here. You can do a round and create like a tube type blanket, just fold it in together and close it up on the bottom and the top. And see, on here you can do a tube round on the long one too. So that's basically what you have on the Afghan loom. And right here, you can do a tube on any one of them. You can do a flat panel on any one of them, just as long as you leave like the open area. And then most double knit, like the figure 8 is really what the double knits are. They have to be done on long looms. They can't be done on I was trying to make sure it wasn't another example. They can't be done on round looms if you want to do figure 8. So that'll be something you'll have to think about when you're buying your looms. So I'm going to show you something that I created using the figure 8 stitch on a loom, and what type of patterns you'll get with different stitches. So this is what a figure 8 stitch would get you. Pretty much a really loose E-stitch. And it stretches out a lot. That stretches out to about a foot. But it actually gives me, and without stretching it out, gives me about, I would say about 6 to 9 inches. I'd just rather say that. So that's the other thing, because you can figure 8 stitch on here and create a wider blanket by figure 8 stitching and get you something wider. But this is what a figure 8 stitch does. I haven't figure 8 stitched it yet, but figure 8 stitch keeps you from having to do a border. So if you want to do that, in preference to having to do a border the whole way around, you can just do a figure 8 stitch and it won't do any curling, as you see, because it's pretty loose. So yeah, so that was basically me letting you know that you can do anything on these looms. So if you decided to be like, okay, well, I feel like I need some round looms and some long looms, and this might save you money by just having this one. The only thing is, for me, it takes about a month to make a really big blanket. So if you decide that this is the only loom that you want, you're gonna pretty much be waiting until you complete a blanket before you can make something else on it. I do personally, I have 3 of these looms. So if I decide to want to make something else, I have 3 looms to be able to do that. So I got this one, and you guys just saw the green one that I just put back over there. So it gives me options to be like, to work on here. So if I would have known what I know now, I would have made sure to buy this loom plus the round looms. And that's because I'm a one-stop person. If I'm going to make something, I want to make it all sitting there. And with round looms, it's just a lot easier to go ahead and make something in the round and then close up, gather the top and close it off and be done with your hat. With this one, you got to knit it flat and then you gotta gather the top, and then you gotta mattress stitch it closed. So then it just gives you more convenience. The other thing is I bought these looms first. So I have all of these, which you can make blankets with these too. I have made a blanket with that one, but I used 4-weight and I wasn't too crazy about the spacing. So if you are going to make a blanket with these or scarves or anything with these, it's better to use 5-weight or 6-weight yarn on these type looms. Because if you notice, excuse me, I'm sorry, the pegs are wider on this one than it is on this one. So if you want to like get into like winter type blankets, this would be the thing to use. Is the wider peg one. Because if you notice right now, I'm trying to save this yarn and not get it tangled up. This is a 5-weight that I plan on. I'll probably end up making like a scarf or a head with it. It might not be enough for a scarf, so I'll probably end up making like a baby head with it. And I'm trying to work out making pillows with these longer ones as well. So I'm planning on trying to make pillows and stuff with that. But I would use like 5 and 6-weight yarn when it comes to that. Okay, so then the other thing is, if you are new to looming, these are looms from Walmart. I would avoid these because they are difficult to work with. And they come in, you'll probably be able to see it when you go to Walmart if you're looking. These aren't the best of looms to use. I'm just showing y'all all the looms I have. This one is the one, if I can pick it up. This one is the one I made the headband with. I can also make, I think it says socks and scarves as well. So if I decided to make a socks or a scarf or a headband, this would be something that I can use to make it on. It's also technically a round loom. I can make a small baby head on there too. So I can make a head on this loom as well. And this is the book that came with this loom. So it does have like gloves on here and a head on here that can be made using this loom as well. I would say the rule of thumb is to basically, if you're searching for looms, is to go KB route, because there's a lot of different variety when it comes to 4-weight yarn and colors. So it's best to have a loom that's gonna work really well with your 4-weight yarn. And then this is these are baby looms that I bought together. The book said it's good. The packaging that I bought it with said it's good for 3-weight yarn, but I mostly use it for 4-weight. So these are the baby ones. I also have these. This one is good for gloves. This one is the same size of this one. So if you wanted to make like a thicker baby head, you would need to use something like this for 5-weight or 6-weight yarn to make a bigger head. And then this one, I use this one for adult heads. And then this one I use for like extra large heads and for cows. So if you ever heard about the cows that go around your neck, I use this for the cows. But if you guys have no more questions or anything, I'm just gonna hang out until like the questions start rolling, and I'm gonna continue to work on my, just in case some people show up late, I'm gonna continue to work on my green blanket. I'm gonna set this on the side because what I'm gonna do on the green blanket is do the side borders, and that if you're at that point, that'll be a good point to start it. I mean, that'll be a good one to bring on to the camera. So I'm gonna bring the baby blanket that I was working on earlier, so I can tell you guys about what's going on real quick on that, so you can make your side borders. And then I'll just be sitting here looming to about 3 o'clock until someone comes on and asks any questions. Okay, so like I was saying earlier, well, the colors are different on this one. My stitch markers are different on this blanket. So if you are doing a border, I got my stitch markers on here and stitch markers on here. Going this direction, I am e-stitching everything. So everything on this border gets e-stitch and everything on that gets e-stitch. So I'm just going to go around the whole thing and e-stitch. Now when I go back this direction, I'm supposed to purl stitch the border only. So I'm going to purl from here to here 7 pegs. I'm sorry about that, y'all. I don't know why I did that. I'm going to purl from here to here for 7 pegs. And then I'm going to e-stitch everything else in the middle. And then I'm going to go to this end and purl stitch from here to here for 7 pegs as well. And that's just to basically section off my border from the inside of the blanket. And this is my example right here that it is sectioned off from the rest of the blanket. Let me move this pen. So this is like the border that is going on the outside. So you'll see on the inside that is e-stitch right up in here. And then that's the border that I have sectioned off with the stitch markers. So that's how you create your border. It's to basically do a garter stitch in that section only, and do whatever stitch you're deciding to do on the inside. And I decided to do a alternation of e-stitch and e-stitch and garter stitch. So I started off with 5, and I realized for me that was too thin of a 5 e-stitches. So I decided to do 10. So I went from 5 rows of garter stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then did 10 rows of e-stitch, and then 5, and then 10. So that's basically how I'm sectioning off my blanket. Doing it also this way helps me keep up with my rows, because I already know what's in each area, so I don't have to go back and constantly go back and count how many rows that I have on each blanket for the next time around. So I'm gonna just keep working on this blanket until someone says they have a question. I'm just gonna go ahead and get started on continuing on with the border. If you needed me to show you how to do the border, just let me know if you need an up-close view of the border. But this as far as I think I'm about, it looks like I'm almost at a foot on this one. So I'm gonna push all these down. I need to start keeping a count now because I'm on e-stitch Well, I've really been keeping account the whole time anyway. So this is my full row of E-stitch because it is my alternate garter stitch on the border area. So I can go around and E-stitch everything. Sometimes if it's not turned that way, it acts like it doesn't want to feed through right. And as you see, I'm not letting the pin feed directly from the skin. I'm pulling it loose on my own. And this is the lumen pin I was talking about earlier. It works well with 4-weight and 3-weight yarn, and it's okay with 5. But I also have my looming, my actual office pins where I use with 6-weight yarn. It doesn't work really well with 6-weight yarn, to me. Although the end of it is wider than the office pin. The opening of it is wider. I'm getting a little sleepy because I ain't got no music. I probably should have fixed some coffee, but it is warmer out here, so I try not to fix coffee, but I could have put some ice in it. Then my tea is caffeine free, so I'm struggling a little bit. But I have water. I don't have tea out here. Okay, we are on the purl stitch side, on the purl stitch end. So I'm gonna purl stitch for 7 pegs. Technically 6 because I don't purl stitch on the first peg. So I'm gonna purl the next 6. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and skip the first one and purl the next 6, and then E-stitch. And I need to be writing down my number, my rows here. I don't know where my other writing pen is. I might have took it in the house. I always leave the 2 end rows up when I'm purl stitching so that I don't get confused when I get to the end of them, and that's what I'm on my purl stitch row. So it helps me remember that I'm not E-stitching like the whole way through when going this direction. I'm a little bit slow because I'm getting sleepy. Okay, turn this, and I need to push more. No, I don't need to push that down, but I need to hold the pen right there so you guys can see that. I need to borrow some yarn from the other peg, so this would be looser because it's usually tight when you're trying to knit off in the middle of your stitches. It usually tight, so I borrow from the other end. And then now I'm gonna purl stitch the rest of this way for my border stitch. And I use this since I ended right there. I started where I can't remember if I said that backwards earlier. I might have said that I start on the end where I finished, but Now that I'm back working on this one, I remember that I started on the end where I started it and worked my way back to the end. Uh-oh, sorry. It was getting caught on the lazy Susan. I think I might do these every Saturday. I'm thinking about it. But I know doing it with no music makes me really sleepy. I might have to do some headphones or something. And just try not to sing the music. I don't know. But I was listening to music yesterday when earlier yesterday when I was working on it without anybody to talk to. I was starting to fall asleep anyway. So it's more like just attention span for me. My neighbor tends to cut his yard every 3 days, seems like 3 to 5 days. Okay, we are at the end of the purl stitch, so we're going back to E-stitch. To write that down, that's row 2. Awesome, I can't wait to see it. How many blankets have you done? And are you still working on your knitting, working with your knitting machine? I think next live I have to have Ian out here. I have to have Ian out here talking me to oblivion to keep me awake. But I think sometimes when I'm just not that interested in his conversation, I get sleepy then too. So I have to figure out some type of solution for YouTube. Awesome. See, I need to get like you. I need to do better. I need to do better when it comes to making blankets. Well, at least these baby blankets. I'm holding off on the larger blankets, but yeah, I need to do better. I said I was gonna make me one too, cause my husband likes to keep the air on in our room, especially since it's getting warmer, and I can't sit up in my chair without the air blowing directly on me. I am so moving slow. This is... Not hid it from you. That'll help you work quicker. Why you think that? Because you run through the yarn faster? Oh. But then you started buying more looms, so. Are you working right now on your projects? I'm trying to find my pen. I didn't think I had took my pen in the house. Let me use this pencil for this purple pen. I'm used to so many. I mean, the teal pen has been used so many times. It's starting to. Maybe it needs to stand up on something. It's starting to feel like it's running out of ink. I set it right here. That's better. Mechanical pencil to the rescue. I have no idea. I really don't. I'm hoping to like. I'm really hoping to only have to use this one skin, but I think part of me is like I feel like I'm gonna need another one. So I have to make it through this whole skin because I remember I think I used like a skin and a half of the baby. I meant the not the baby, but the big twist yarn. So we'll see. I have no idea. And they let the dog out. Sound like, yeah, sound like he's out hollering. Why? I'm hoping that this is all the skin I'll need, but I don't want to be. I don't want to psych myself up, cause this is like 595 yards. Let me see how much it says to that I need to make a blanket with. I might as well take it out of this. I'm curious. You use it? No, it don't have it on the outside. Mini grid. I think it's saying 2. I really don't want to buy another one. But I pretty much figured that. Because I had to go all the way to Joann's or order it online in order to get another one. But this one I got from Joann's. I don't think it was at my Walmart. Move that off. Set it over there. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I think it's saying 2. I need 2. I didn't want to, but I think that's pretty much saying I need 2. But that's crochet. And I think you don't think I have to? Cause I think somebody told me that crocheting use more yarn than knitting does. Cause that's a crochet, two balls of crochet. Is what it's saying, 2 balls. I'm really hoping not to. Okay. So maybe that gives me hope that I shouldn't have to buy anymore. I hope not. I really hope not. Cause I really want to just be one and done with this blanket. Now I gotta figure out where to stop to do the last part of the blanket, but Well, I figure that out when it gets here. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think I used like 1 1/4 of the skin just to do the border part, the end border part, because I didn't know how to size it out. Me too, me too. Please do. I need to have my fingers crossed because I think on that last baby blanket I did, which the skin was I think I ended up with 165 rows. So maybe if I count the rows on here, maybe that'll help me not go over what I'm supposed to do. How's your baby doing? She keeping you busy? I swear, all of it. I need all of it, and I need to do all of it. I need to do all of it. I don't want to order anything from Joann too quickly, and I don't want more yarn than what I need to have. But if I were to have to order another skein of, I guess I could do like a a little hat. But I try not to do so many of the same things. Like if I were doing like a this blanket plus a hat in this pattern, it's just like too much going on for me. Not chewing up her blanket. I wish that screen would stop doing that. I'm sorry. With a chew toy next to her, that's funny. Our dog chews up his blankets too, and like he not only chews it up, he eats it. And so the kids will be in the room just watching them eat it. So I have to go in there and say something to them all the time. Don't you see the dog chewing up the blanket? Like, do you not see him? I don't know what it is about, because I wouldn't want to swallow something so dry. Like he's chewing and swallowing something so dry. Like, I don't get it. Not the tags. I bet she is so entertaining. That's so funny. She said she gonna find all the tags. She gonna find it all. Exactly. Exactly. There's only one toy that we bought our dog that he will actually really play with, and it's like a rope toy. But most of the other toys, he won't just sit around and play with those. Like he'll bring the rope toy to you and everything and want to play with it, but he won't bring no other toy. He doesn't want to play with nothing else. I can't remember if I wrote that number down. I think I'm on. I think I'm on 5. I know I'm not gonna. I probably need to put my phone on the charger. I'm not gonna make sure that I try and get this get that garter stitch row done before I get back on live later on. I do with my backup battery. I know I didn't misplace it. Although I got enough time, I misplaced my backup battery. I know I brought it out here because I brought them all together. Okay, where are you? There you are, right here. I think this might reach. I forgot I needed that stand thing for I could probably just set it up right here. There we go. All right, got that done. Ready to get back to it. Uh-oh. I'm almost certain I'm at 6. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've made it that far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I always lose it when I go back. Okay, let me try. Hey, how you doing? Not much, but you know. I think this is 7. I think I lost count, y'all. Let me see. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think I'm on row 7. I lost count. I had a feeling something was off. And I'm supposed to be starting on the other end. I got a video idea I need to do today for TikTok. I had the idea for the past couple of days, so it's a good thing to do it. Really longer than that. I probably had the idea for about a week. I've just been trying to figure out how to implement it. Okay, that's 7. on 8. Gotta start saying this stuff out loud because I lose count when I do e-stitching because I'm moving so fast. I'm almost nearing the end of E-stitch, the E-stitch section. I feel like I'm only getting like 3 inches done a day of this blanket. Row 9. Ten. right, this makes 10. So then we're gonna go back around, back towards the beginning peg and do our E-stitch. Full E-stitch, full purl row. Because we're doing alternate stitches of garter and E-stitch on the blanket. And see how much video editing I can do on this video for YouTube. I haven't really used video editing on YouTube in like legit video editing. I add music all the time, but I haven't done like legit cut and paste and stuff. Okay, so this is where we are. Still gonna get off about 3 o'clock. But I'm gonna continue working on this because I wanna get the garter stitch area done before I get back on live later on, which will be on TikTok. I wanna get the garter stitch done before I get back on there. I want to start off with the E-stitch section of the blanket. It is coming along slowly. Uh-oh. I almost grabbed two. I swear, me too. Me too, because on on that bigger blanket, the one and only bigger blanket, there is there's a garter stitch I missed. And when I saw it, I was like, nobody's gonna know. No, I'm not gonna go back and fix it. I went through too much to do this blanket, and the garter stitch is only on one end. And I was like, nope, not going back and fixing that. It's not, because I've seen people do like they do like pictures and stuff on on their blankets where they use two different colors, and while like they may be making a heart or something, they skip pegs with their yarn to make other to make the whole picture. So I'm just like, what's the harm that one stitch can do? Which I plan on going in that one stitch, and what I'm gonna do is take some thread and wrap it around there to make sure that it stays. But yeah, I was so annoyed. I was like, really, out of this whole blanket, me going back and fixing a lot of stuff, there's like one garter stitch that's loose. And I was like, no, I'm not going to frog that, nothing. I'm going to do whatever I can to save it. I know I done made a lot of mistakes, so I was like, nope, it's gonna stay. It's gonna stay. Okay, I'm gonna do this last row of purl stitch, which I know it's gonna take me at least 10 minutes to do, and then I'm gonna get off of here. Cause I gotta purl stitch everything. Then I can count that as one row of garter stitch. And just like clockwork, it took me 10 minutes. Took me 10. I bet I got the time and a little bit more down pack with this blanket. Okay, y'all. So make a note that that is my garter stitch. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So this is the last of my live. I'm gonna show you guys the blanket again. This is the end of my live. I'm gonna continue working off of live because I want to get the garter stitch section done before I get back on live on TikTok, and I don't want to just keep holding y'all hostage. That's kind of how we said it back in um where I worked at. We would talk about holding hostage, basically going longer than anyone would expect you to, and just being long-winded. That's holding hostage. But thank you, yes, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you for keeping me company. Cause when you started talking to me, I woke up. So now I'm awake. I'm kind of like borderline right now, but I think I'll be fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and do those 5 stitches before I get back on live tonight. But yes, I will see you later on tonight at TikTok. And I really would like to get on there at 7 o'clock. But you know, you can't really control others, so we'll see how that goes. What time dinner will be done. I have a lot of outliers. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your day. Yes, it woke me up. But I will see you guys later on. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, and we'll be back later on TikTok. Awesome. I'm glad. You feel motivated to finish.